go. Let's do a game every week for the next 10 weeks. I actually don't know if everybody would survive. I don't know if anybody would survive.
No, I mean, the build-up, I don't know if fans could survive all that hype, too, going into it. But seriously, there are 2 top 10 programs in the state of Montana. I think that's without question.
Yep.
And the Big Sky Conference, I feel, is the best conference in the Big Sky, or in the nation right now, at least from an FCS level. So it is going to be so much fun. You're right. How in the heck are we going to pack everything into 2 hours with what happened over the weekend from the college ranks? And then, oh yeah, it was NFL week 1, too.
We'll get things started off with the Montana Football Hour. Montana, a 42-7 victor over Western Illinois on Saturday night. Montana State, a 45-7 victor over Drake. Those 2 scores sound pretty similar dominant efforts as well. So we'll take you through all of that. We got sound ready for you from Bobby Houck, as well as Cam Humphrey, Malik Flowers. Also from the Bobcat side of things, Brent Vegan, head coach for MSU, as well as Daniel Hardy and Ty Okada, a couple standout defensive players on that side of things. Hour number 2, very excited for this as well. A new addition to the show with a guy that's been around here a couple times, but excited to welcome him in as a consistent contributor to this show. Marty Morningweg, former Grizz quarterback and a guy that coached in the NFL for more than 20 years, made stops in Green Bay, San Francisco, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Coached guys like Brett Favre, Steve Young, Donovan McNabb, Michael Vick. The list goes on and on and on. He'll be joining us every Monday from 5 to 5:30, and it'll be the Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningweg. And we'll get you through all that NFL action. Going to do a little good, bad, and ugly when it comes to everything that was in the NFL. And then 5:30, man, what a crazy weekend around Western Montana, man. The Missoula Paddleheads are into the championship game as well. A championship series, I should say. They had a championship game win over the Idaho Falls Chuckers on Saturday. So now they get a chance to play for all the marbles beginning tonight. So Jeff Savard, the voice of the Missoula Paddleheads, will join us here about 5:30 as well. Riley, we'll get things started today. The Montana Football Hour, by the way, is presented in part by Stockman Bank and in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Happy to have Brett's RV and Marine on the show. Thank you so much for the support. And they're big-time Grizz and Bobcat supporters as well. But Brett's RV and Marine, you can go get pre-qualified today. They have the largest inventory, and they are the largest overall RV dealers in all of Montana. Brett's RV currently showcasing the best inventory in the state at volume discount prices with a service department that stands behind their products. Brett's RV and Marine also leads Montana RV sales and has been a family-owned RV dealership for more than 50 years. With 75 RV and boat brands to choose from, Brett's RV offers the largest inventory anywhere under the Big Sky. So stop by today and check out all the beautiful RVs that they have down there at 4800 Grant Creek Road. Start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. Riley, I want to start by asking you a personal question. You're the voice of the Grizzlies.
I was going to say, this could be dangerous.
Yeah, no. You're the voice of the Grizzlies. You take a lot of pride in what you do. I got a lot of respect for the prep and time that you put into your calls. You're always so well prepared. But from a play-by-play guy perspective, watching a defense that plays like Montana, this has to be a dream come true, right? I mean, you don't have to bring any sort of energy. These guys just bring it for you.
That's such a great way to set that up, Coulter. I mean, with the way these guys fly around, it is a dream, and you can feel the energy immediately from every play. I mean, they finish plays. They tackle so well. The scheme's fun to watch, right? Because we don't know where the pressure's coming from, the way they disguise it nonstop. And then the athletes that you see on the field. Not only, and the linebackers are getting a ton of love right now. They really should. Marcus Wellnell, Patrick O'Connell, the 2 guys everyone's talking about. Jace Lewis has been so solid. But all 3 levels of the defense. I mean, the back end is, I think, the biggest improvement point. Justin Ford and Omar Hicks-Onu are creating a lot of opportunities for the rest of this front 6, front 7 to go after it. It is so much fun to call this Grizzly defense now where, you know what, play-by-play guys usually love points, and they love shootouts, touchdowns, the big moment, all that stuff. It's not the case with this Grizzly defense.
Well, when you go roll up like 15 tackles for loss, it gives you quite a few plays to get a good call on.
I think, honestly, I need to work on my sack calls more because there might be just as many sacks as touchdowns this year, which is kind of a mind-blowing number, but you're totally right.
Absolutely. And I will say this, too. I know that football has gravitated towards this offensive-minded consumption, whether it's because of fantasy football on the NFL level or red zone phenomenon in the NFL, or just the way the offense is being played,
or the way the game's being called.
But I thought that, no question. But I thought that my former housemate, who I lived with for 4.5 years, he's a big time football guy. He's an Ohio State and a Grizz fan, through and through, both of them. And he went to the game on Saturday. He texted me. He goes, "I can't explain to you how cool it is to watch great defense being played live and in person. we're all sort of addicted to the red zone nature of football, whether it's NFL or college. But it's so true, man. In person in a packed house like it was Saturday night at Washington Grizzly Stadium, you can score all the touchdowns in the world. There's nothing like a third down when Patrick O'Connell comes off the edge. I thought the point in the game where Western Illinois just broke is they had an interception and they returned it deep into Grizz territory, and like 2 or 3 plays later, Patrick O'Connell comes off the edge, gets a strip sack fumble, and bam, Montana's back in business.
The emotion actually feeds off the defense this year. I mean, and I think the offense fuels off of it too, where even in that game on Saturday, it's a quarter and a half where it's kind of, all right, 7-0.
Sure.
What kind of game is this going to be? The offense fed off the energy the defense was providing. It's going to be fun to watch all year long. This is a special group, and we're going to have, 2 to 3 months to chronicle this from a historical perspective.
Yep.
But it's very fair to say, Coulter, this is one of the best defenses ever. Might be the best defense since 2000, 2001 for the Grizz.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting to analyze because I think that the part that makes this defense so hard to put into to really analyze. Well, what am I trying to say here? I don't know if there is a Croy Bierman or a Tremaine Johnson on this defense, but there's so many really good players. That's the point that's so startling. I think you could say remove this guy, remove this guy, remove this guy, remove this guy. It doesn't matter. I mean, pretty much every guy on the defense has a comparable, if not really good. It's not, backup's the wrong word, but a guy that's on the 2 deep with them.
I think that fans and everyone else maybe gets bored to death hearing the word depth. They have a lot of depth. Well, guess what? That's why this Grizzly defense is so good. To your point, that if a guy's out week to week, the way they're rotating on the defensive line, I mean, the fact someone like a Diari Todd, number 50 defensive end, he never got on the field at Michigan State. Now he's cracking the 2 deep at Montana. He gets his first sack, and he's kind of a forgotten star. They're just littered throughout the entire defense, and absolutely agree with your point there.
Ryan Elliott, second-year head coach for Western Illinois. I guess it's his 3rd season because this is his 2nd season this year, but he's been at the helm since the 2018 year was his first year, so I guess this is his 3rd year and a 4th season. I don't know. I'm all confused.
They call it 4th season at least, but right.
Regardless, Ryan Elliott's been on the show a couple times. We did not get around to getting to him last week, but he gave a couple minutes on the Montana defense. So rather than hear from the Grizz first, let's hear from Western Illinois' head coach because he gave a little bit of a perspective on not only this Grizz defense as a whole, but how much they've improved since 2018.
The Grizzly defense. Yeah, I think they're the real deal. And, we knew they were really good watching them on tape. You walk off the field, seeing them in person. They're the real deal. Comparing and contrasting, what did you see from the film last week against Washington? And then, how do you compare that to what they did today? Was it similar, or, was it more startling? What did you think of this in person? Yeah, no, I was really impressed. They got great players. They run a great scheme. They didn't do anything different. They just do it really well. And credit to those guys. And again, there's no question that's one of the better defensive units in the country. Broadly, their defensive scheme is similar in, premise to when you guys played in 2018. How do you think it's sort of diversified or improved based on the personnel and just the development they've done? Yeah, I think the personnel's better than when we played in 2018. And they definitely have added some wrinkles, and they create some unusual box looks for you and where they place the buck, and they make you communicate at a very high level, and they do some really good things scheme-wise. The kids play very fast, very hard, and they're confident with them. That edge spot, like you said, the buck, or whatever Montana calls it, but they bring 58 off the edge a lot. But the way that they change their fronts and the way that they sort of smoke screen you with the variety of pressures, how hard is that as an offense? Yeah, it makes you communicate, and it makes you communicate at a really high level, and that's what offensive football is all about. You got to have a bunch of guys that can do their 111 and do their job, and if there's any doubt or any hesitancy in what you're doing or who we're IDing in our protections or run game, it can make you play slow, and I thought that was a little bit of the case tonight. And again, credit to Montana, does a great job moving him around and presents a lot of different pictures for you pre-snap, and so and then you couple that with being in this type of environment and atmosphere, it makes the communication piece that much more difficult. Yeah, first game here in
21 months under the lights. So, I mean, did it play a factor tonight?
I think there were times it did, yes. I think we were prepared for it. We knew
that edge spot, like you said, the buck, or whatever Montana calls it, but they bring 58 off the edge a lot. But the way that they change their fronts and the way that they sort of smoke screen you with the variety of pressures, how hard is that as a offense?
Yeah, it makes you communicate, and it makes you communicate at a really high level, and that's what offensive football is all about. You gotta have a bunch of guys that do their 111 and do their job, and if there's any doubt or any hesitancy in what you're doing or who we're IDing in our protections or run game, it can make you play slow, and I thought that was a little bit of the case tonight. And again, credit to Montana, does a great job moving him around and presents a lot of different pictures for you pre-snap, and so and then you couple that with being in this type of environment and atmosphere, it makes the communication piece that much more difficult.
Yeah, I mean, first game here in 21 months under the lights. So, I mean, did it play a factor tonight?
I think there were times it did, yes. I think we were prepared for it. We knew it was going to be a great environment for a college football game, but no doubt it creates another layer of just concentration and focus and communication. That you typically don't have to.
Ryan Elliott, the head coach for Western Illinois, following his team's 42-7 loss at Montana on Saturday. We're going to get to Bobby Hauck's thoughts on the Grizzly defensive execution as well. But you're going to touch on the Montana State game. Obviously, the premier game in the state of Montana this last week. This was actually in my personal recollection. By the way, you listen to Nuanez now on 102.9 ESPN Missoula. Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz. Joining me, Colter Nuanez, here in the Northwest Motorsports Studio. This is the Montana Football Hour, presented in part by Stockman Bank. Stockman Bank has 36 locations around the state of Montana. They're in Montana, only in Montana, and they plan on keeping it that way. Let Stockman Bank show you Montana's brand of banking today. The premier game was in Missoula, because this is a Missouri Valley Big Sky Conference crossover game. Western Illinois, although they have struggled the last couple years, just 2 victories in the 2019 and then 2021 spring seasons combined. They have a lot of talent. I actually thought they had quite a bit of talent on both sides of the ball. But obviously the Missouri Valley Big Sky Conference crossover is going to get a lot of headlines, especially when the other game at Montana State was against a Pioneer Football League team in Drake that doesn't really have, they don't have scholarships. So Montana State, an expected 45-7 victory over Drake. But the Bobcats, I think that they did what you'd expect them to do in terms of defensive execution. I think Drake had 24 yards in the first half. They really just sort of suffocated them in building a 24-7 lead. Drake was selling out all the way on the Bobcat run game, which we'll get to. Brent Deegan's thoughts on why Montana State's run game was a little bit limited in this one. But a couple things to point out. First of all, I think Montana State's front seven is playing at a really high level. And that was expected given the personnel, but maybe a question mark given the scheme change. They went from running an odd man front with guys like Amandre Williams and Troy Anderson playing off the edge. Now Williams has got his hand in the dirt, as does Daniel Hardy. Troy Anderson's playing stand-up inside linebacker. So the little bit of skepticism on how those guys would adjust, but they look fast. They look efficient in their movements to the ball. They look like they got the reads and the run fits and all that stuff down. I think the influx of talent on the back end, including the additions of transfer safeties, Jeffrey Manning and Trey Webb, have really paid dividends for the Bobcats as well. But they're playing really fast defensively. And on offense, some of the Bobcat fans haven't seen in quite some time. An efficient and functional pass game. Matt McKay was pretty good. He threw 3 touchdowns on Saturday. I think he still has a lot of room to improve, but that's a good thing because they have not seen much in terms of a passing game. But got a lot of guys involved. Lance McCutcheon had his best career day, 7 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown for the Bozeman product. Willie Patterson got 2 touchdowns, the first 2 touchdowns of his career. Got himself in some hot water because he did a backflip after his second one. He didn't go back in the game for a little while after that one, so new head coach wasn't thrilled with that. But Yeah, at the end of the day, first victory for Brent Vegan. So, Riley, I know you had no eyes on this because it was the exact same time as the Grizz game.
You know, the funny thing is there was about a half of an eyeball looking at it because we had it up in our booth. We had the Cat game and then the Grizz game and then our live stat feed with the game playing out in front of us. I'm just really impressed. You said the one word that I was going to describe MSU the way I've seen it, efficiency. I think Matt McKay has been phenomenally efficient. 72% completion rate through the first 2 games, 5 touchdowns, hasn't turned the ball over yet. So Montana State looks pretty good. Again, quality of opponent, neither here nor there. Very solid, and I was impressed by their performance as well.
Ty Okada is sort of the linchpin. These new age defenses now, I think that one point I got to make is a lot of people gauge scheme. I know scheme is sort of not something that a lot of football observers want to really dive all the way into. Gets a little bit of the minutia. It's a little bit complicated. People just like to sort of understand football at its broad level, and that's totally fine. But one thing I got to emphasize is that the position of nickelback has evolved and transformed so much. It used to be your nickelback was your third corner. He's just the guy that comes in the game when the other teams run in a 3 wide receiver set. Well, guess what? Nobody runs a fullback anymore.
No one.
Everybody runs a 3 wide receiver set. Most of the time they're running a 4 wide receiver set if you count the tight end or the 2 tight ends or whatever. So the nickel is not just the guy who's matched up on the slot anymore. Oftentimes the nickel is playing down in the box. Oftentimes the nickel is like an extra linebacker in the run fits. But then oftentimes he does have to guard the slot as well. So I think that's worth noting because you look at Montana's nickel, Nash Fouch, you look at Montana State's nickel, Ty Okada. These guys are not just like your Dre Bly little fast corners. These guys can hit, they can tackle. They're like safeties.
They're the ultimate X factor in the defense, and they change up the versatility for what each defensive coordinator wants to do. And I would say more than anything else, Coulter, you look at the nickel to see the change in scheme. Even going back to Washington, Buki Radley Hiles is their nickel guy,
yeah.
and he came in from Oklahoma, and he is their ultimate stud, but he can fly around. And it just seems like to me the nickel plays so freely in defenses now that you have to be aware of where they're at.
And a guy that is sort of the linchpin of Montana State's defense is their nickelback, Ty Okada. He could play safety. He played safety about 7 games as a starter last year. But he's playing that nickel spot now, and he's great in run game support. He flies around. He's great tackling in space. More than anything, he's just a dang good interview. Here's just a brief bit from Ty Okada on Montana State's defensive performance.
He held them to 2.2 yards per carry, stayed running the football. What did you like about your run defense specifically?
I mean, the guys up front dominated. Our linebackers are fast as heck. You know, Troy and Cal run into the ball. You know, it's at this point, it's the expectation, and we took care of business. Love to see that out of our guys, executing up front. And even, you know, when things do break, we've got guys like Jeff, Trey, or James on the outside, Easy on the outside, that can bring it down and live to fight another down. So, you know, I just love what we're doing as a defense, running the ball, playing fast, playing physical. So, absolutely.
A dominant win today. Are you guys feeling pretty confident just in how you can play the rest of the season, or are you focused more on kind of the things you need to work on?
Absolutely. We just want to take it week by week. You know, there's a lot we're still going to learn from this game. A lot of mistakes we made, things that we can correct. And next week is going to, you know, our plan is to prepare and be the best team next Saturday.
So you go, Ty Okada, one of our favorites around here. One more thought from the Bobcat defensive group. Daniel Hardy, he also had an outstanding day. He looks like one of the best speed guys in the league. Here's his thoughts. And this is going to lead me into a question I have for Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, who's joining me here, Coulter Nuanez, on Nuanez Now. I got a question about internal expectations, but first, Daniel Hardy, Montana State.
Do it again in a heartbeat. So,
How did this compare to last week?
I mean, we came out with the same mentality. I mean, it doesn't matter who we play. We could be playing Alabama or we could be playing, you know, whoever it is, but we're going to come out with the same mentality. We want to win. We want to punch them in the mouth early and, you know, see if they can get into a fist fight.
You've spoken a lot about the way in which you've won. Obviously, the offense did their part also, but on defense, is there a sense of pride of not leaving any doubt in this kind of a game?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, that's always the thing on defense. Like, our job, our whole mentality is that our offense could go kick a field goal and we'll win the game. And that's how we want to handle our business, and that's how we want to attack teams.
The Montana Football Hour here on ESPN Missoula, as well as statewide SWX Montana Television. Montana Football Hour is presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine, they're buying, selling, and trading. They have great inventory, awesome luxury RVs, and they do service as well. So go check out Brett's RV and Marine, located at 4800 Grant Creek Road here in Missoula. Riley, that soundbite there from Daniel Hardy, you could have removed his name and the voice from it, and it could have been a Grizz defender as well. And I think that is one parallel that both these teams have right now. They both talk about the internal expectation. It's not, by gosh, we went out and performed so great, we're so proud of ourselves. Nope, that's what our expectation is to perform this well. And I think that Montana, the way that they tackle in space, the only way you're going to really score on this team is if you hit a big play or have some sort of special teams breakdown that gives you good field position. Other than that, I really don't see teams manufacturing drives against them. But it's sort of the same with Montana State because they have so much speed to eliminate angles. I mean, that's what college football has sort of boiled down to, is getting defensive players in space and making them miss. And that's why I think both these teams have a chance to be two of the best defensive teams in the country, because they both tackle in space so well. But my question for you, though, is how important is that level of expectation? Because I think that more than any other physical skill, is the thing that has both of these teams operating at an incredibly high level.
It's everything, and especially on the defensive side of the ball. You said it, with limiting big plays. The two aspects that you said, for really, and you could put both teams in there. You could insert Montana or Montana State with these expectations, but how are you going to score on them? They are daring you to go down the field, and you're going to have to go 12, 13, 14 plays, 70 yards, and tick time off the clock. The biggest play that Western Illinois had was 20 yards. They didn't have one play over 20 yards. And Washington had 2 plays over 20 yards. That was it the entire time. It's everything. In that locker room, they are built to dare teams to just, okay, try and dink and dunk it down the field on us. And then when you get behind the 8 ball, you get behind schedule. I got a stat for you, Coulter, and I don't want to get too stat heavy on this, but in the last 5 games, the Grizzly defense, their opponents, 17% on third down.
It's amazing.
I mean, you just don't see numbers like that.
That's exactly the other point worth making, too, is that I know that the 2019 season was such an interesting one in terms of analyzing the end of the year for the Grizzlies, because they had what I would consider their breakthrough performance since Coach Houck returned against Weber State.
In the regular season.
They destroyed Weber in their final home game. The next week, they went and got shocked by Montana State, and Montana State dominated that game, and it was very eye-opening because Montana had dominated physically so much the week before. But then the Grizz go and hang 73 on Southeast Louisiana. And the fact that they lost because of a bunch of turnovers in a rainy night in Ogden sort of put a damper on. That was actually one of the best defensive performances in the history of Grizz postseason football. What, they gave up like 110 yards?
113 total yards is all Weber got in that game.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And so then you think about the carryover. If you extract the Cat game out of the sample size and look at that Weber game, but the 2 Weber games and then the first 2 games of this year, it's one of the highest levels that Montana's defense has ever operated at, especially when you're analyzing it statistically.
And it's only getting better. That's kind of the scary part out there, is that they are finally understanding the scheme. Pat O'Connell came on the Grizzly Sports Report yesterday, and he even said, hey, when we came in, we were confused. We didn't know what the heck was going on. Now they have it down, which is very frightening, I think, because they understand what Coach Bear is running, and just the love that everyone has together. That's what makes it such a special combination.
Let's hear from Bobby Houck, his thoughts. Just a couple sound bites here from Coach Houck. First, his opening statement. He was pretty proud of his guys.
That was a good team effort. I'm impressed with the way we were able to bounce back from such a monumental win at Washington last weekend and not get too full of ourselves and come out and get a dominating win over a good football team. The defense was terrific. We're going on 115 plus minutes without being scored upon. I think that's pretty spectacular in this day and age. College football doesn't happen very much. I thought that Western Illinois had a really dynamic offense, and that was not the way it played out tonight in our stadium. So the crowd was awesome. It was so cool to have them back. I just, I told these guys this week that just wait and see. It's going to be different than what you're accustomed to. And our students were awesome. Our crowd was awesome. Everybody's into it. Everybody's pulling together. Our team feeds off it. it's the greatest setting in college football, right here at the base of the mountain and on the river. So it was a great night in the stadium. I'm glad we won.
And Bobby Houck on the defensive execution. It's the Montana Football Hour here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
Coach, when it comes to defensive execution, they were trying to run sort of these inside stretch plays with wide receiver reverses, stuff like that to try to press the edge, but it seems like every player on your defense can set the edge. So just talk about that element, being able to, not really have any vulnerability interiorly or exteriorly.
Yeah, it's my belief that we've got good, if not great, speed on defense. It's shown up the first 2 weeks, and they're hard to run around. And you have to body them up, and you have to win. And we're doing a lot of different things on who's going to be the edge of the defense. So that's hard to figure out to a degree, and they did not crack the code on that, certainly. And when you start looking at it, this we were a 3-yard run's a big gain. You feel pretty comfortable with the defense.
When 3-yard run does seem like a good gain, the defense was the story for Montana. 151 yards given up against Western Illinois, 6 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. The Grizz were all over the place. But there's a lot to talk about on the other side of the ball as well. Honestly, the defense were the headliners for both Montana and Montana State.
And that's just by both teams scoring in the 40s.
Right, totally.
That's crazy.
Absolutely. But let's talk a little bit about the offenses. We'll do that next on the Montana Football Hour here on 102.9 ESPN Missoula.
Oh, I love family road trips. Wind in my ears.
Good dog.
Freeds in my mouth. And peace of mind, knowing Les Schwab did our tires, brakes, and alignment. Like Les Schwab, my family's safety is my first priority. Well, that and squeaky toys.
Swing by today and get road trip ready with our always free pre-trip safety check. Les Schwab Tires. Applies to passenger cars, SUVs, and light trucks only. Details at leschwab.com/safety.
Buying or selling a home can be an intimidating task. Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team of Windermere Real Estate are here to make you feel comfortable no matter where you're at in the process. The official realtors of Grizzly Athletics have more than 4 decades of experience in Western Montana. Brent and his team can not only find you your perfect home or buyer, but they can also teach you about the great city of Missoula and its tradition-laden sports teams. The Wahlberg team works as a family to help fulfill your real estate needs all over Western Montana. If you need help with residential, land, investment, or commercial, give Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team a call today.
The mortgage lenders at Farmer State Bank remind you that because of market conditions, your home could be worth more than ever. Take advantage of the added equity in your home to take on that home remodel or repair project at today's low interest rates. Want to explore your options? Visit farmersebank.com to learn more. Then start the application process online for a locally approved home equity loan. Farmer State Bank, an equal housing lender and member FDIC.
This is Sarah from Home Resource. Are you ready for the smashinest, bashinest event in town? Join us for Spontaneous Construction, a building competition and festival of creative reinvention on Saturday, September 18th. There will be music, food, fun, and 25 teams battling it out to build one-of-a-kind items using Home Resource materials. That toilet you donated last week? Yeah, that too. Join us on September 18th. COVID safety precautions will be in place for all. Details at homeresource.org.
Hi, this is Justin Sinclair with Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula. As you may know, the used car market is hot, but the inventory is low. At Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula, we have been working to ensure that our lot stays full of a variety of cars, trucks, and SUVs. The interest rates remain low, and your dream car just may be on our lot, and if it isn't, we will use our network to find it. We look forward to seeing you and showing you around. No pressure. Your car, your way. Nissan and Hyundai of Missoula, the full lot on Brooks.
Bob Ward's Your Hunting Headquarters wants to remind you to keep an eye on that calendar. Don't miss out on opening day because you don't have the gear. Get into Bob Ward's now. You'll find the biggest and best selection of everything from scopes to shells, rifles to rangefinders, calls to camo, and much, much more. Visit your local Bob Ward's for in-store sales updated weekly. Hunters, your season is here. Head into Bob Ward's and gear up. Bob Ward's, sports and outdoors. Montana's best friend for the great outdoors for over 100 years.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The Grizz continued to dominate defensively. Brent Vegan earned his first win at Montana State, and Florence and Loyola each posted huge victories over the weekend. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The Montana Grizzlies played their first game at Washington Grizzly Stadium since December 5th of 2019, drilling Western Illinois 42-7 in front of a capacity crowd under the lights Saturday night in Missoula. The Grizz defense has not allowed a single point in 115 minutes of game time and has given up just one offensive touchdown this season on an opening drive to the number 20 Washington Huskies in Seattle in Montana's season opener. UM allowed Western Illinois just 151 yards of total offense, rolling up 6 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in the process. Montana senior Cam Humphrey threw 5 touchdowns, and the Grizz rushed for 242 yards, despite their top 3 running backs missing the contest with various injuries. The Grizz have a bye this week. Montana State opened its home slate with a 45-7 drubbing of Drake in front of a capacity crowd for MSU's annual Gold Rush game at Bobcat Stadium Saturday night. Matt McKay threw for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, including 2 to Willie Patterson, and MSU senior Lance McCutcheon hauled in 7 passes for 121 yards and a 45-yard score as Vegan posted his first win as Bobcat head coach. Montana State hosts San Diego on Saturday. And finally, in the high school ranks, number 1 Florence destroyed number 7 Three Forks 43-0, while Missoula Loyola pulled out a 2014 win over defending Class B state champion Manhattan in overtime.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Garden City Plumbing and Heating. 0.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
Across the Treasure State each and every weekday right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio, as well as SWX Montana Television. My good friend and colleague Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, doing a meet in studio. And because it's the first hour of Monday's show, it's the Montana Football Hour, presented in part by Stockman Bank and Brett's RV and Marine. Stockman Bank invites you to experience the Stockman difference. As a family-owned community bank with locations throughout Montana, Stockman Bank is committed to enriching the lives of Montanans and helping communities succeed. What that means to you is your money stays in the local economy, supporting your friends and neighbors. Montana, a 42-7 victory over Western Illinois, and Montana State, a 45-7 victory over Drake. The key things to know in this game, or in each of these games: defense. The Grizz overwhelmed Western Illinois, 6 sacks, 11 tackles for loss. The Bobcat defense, they allowed 24 total yards in the first half, and then kind of cruised from there. Drake's plan was to slow down Isaiah Fonse. They did that pretty darn well. But then Montana State, they proved that they can go outside of what has won them a lot of games over the last several years, and they actually threw the ball. And Matt McKay threw for more than 260 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns. Lance McCutcheon went over 100 yards receiving. So a good day for him. And Montana, they were a little slow to start offensively, but then once they turned the corner, they had a huge run of momentum. They scored on a 2-minute drill to close the first half, and then they scored on basically a 2-minute drill to open the second half. I had to go get some cords out of my RV. By the way, shout out to RV Truck Sales too as well for all their help. But I had to go get some stuff real quick, so I was about 2 minutes late coming back, and I could hear the cannon going off, and I was like, is that the cannon to summon the second half? Oh, no, the Grizz already scored in like 90 seconds. But, I mean, that had to be what you consider the turning point in the game.
Well, I think the turning point to me was the touchdown before halftime with Mitch Roberts, for sure. I mean, that play could have been absolute disaster, right? I mean, 14-7, time's running out. You're thinking, okay, are they even going to get any points? And then to flip the script there, Culture, they've been so good in the second half. I mean, the point differential is just mind-blowing with how they just wear down teams.
Well, they've been so good from start to finish. I mean,
yeah, it's true.
115 minutes without a point surrendered by the defense, because the Western Illinois touchdown, it came on a pick 6.
How about that? When was the last time that against 2 legit opponents that it's been 23 straight drives now with no points? Washington scored on their opening drive, their final 11 drives, no points. 12 offensive drives for Western Illinois, no point. 23 in a row. I mean, that's a pretty impressive streak. And
especially this day and age in college football.
It might continue a little bit with the next game being Cal Poly.
No question. It's an impressive performance thus far for the Grizzly defense. I think that the thing about it is that you can talk about talent, you can talk about scheme, you can talk about execution. But to me, the reason the Grizz defense is playing at such a high level, it comes down to 2 factors: effort and focus. To not give up any points for 23 consecutive opposing drives, that's nothing more than focus, because usually when you give up one is when you're up 35-7 or up 42-7 and somebody just kind of misses a tackle and then, people don't run the ball. This Grizz team's taking so much pride in running the football in every single play.
How much of that do you think comes from the coaching staff, though, in the sense where
so much.
The entire time where these guys are competing for plays, they're competing to stay on the two deep, that let's just say in the second half of that game, there was no let up because those guys got an opportunity on the field. And if the Leathernecks went down and scored, they might not see the field for a long time again. So, you just see it. It's from the top down, Coulter, but you're seeing it work in motion. It takes, I probably for good measure, I didn't realize the process that it took, right? To build the culture and to overtake a culture with an entire football team. Well, now I'm seeing it play out in front of me. It is mind-blowing and really impressive to see day to day.
I've been around Bobby Hauck for the majority, if not all of his. I was obviously going to games his first couple years here in 2003, 2004, but been covering him from a media capacity for most of his time at Montana, between his first 7-year stint and then these last couple years. And the things we're talking about has always been trademarks of his teams. But I think right now you can tell that this Grizz team, I think they have more buy-in than ever before, and also, though, I think that they're having as good a time as they ever had. Bobby Hauck is so good at making every guy 1 through 99 on the roster feel like his role matters a ton to the team. But right now, you can tell that every person on this team is taking great, great, great pride in their contribution.
And every member on the coaching staff is as well. Look at the resume again, Coulter. It's worth repeating. How is Kent Bear here? How is Tim Rose?
Right.
How is Brent Peace here?
Sure.
All the way down the line. And the preparation is just, you're right, even from special teams. That's why the special teams is so great. A guy gets on there for 3 plays. He takes pride in that because he's a member of the team and is contributing.
Nuanez now 102.9 ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. Riley Corcoran in studio with me, Coulter Nuanez. It's the Montana Football Hour, presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine has more than 75 RV and boat brands to choose from. They offer the largest inventory anywhere under the big sky. Whether you're looking for luxurious Tiffin 8 diesel motorhomes or affordable Keystone travel trailers or anything in between, Brett's has it covered. Stop by 4800 Grant Creek Road and start on your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. Riley, on the Bobcat side of things, I was so interested to see how they adjusted to the new scheme. But when Freddie Banks, the defensive coordinator, was sort of professing his vision in his first press conference, he said the number one thing I want for this squad is I want to simplify everything. It doesn't matter what your position is, if you're changing position, tweaking, going from a buck end to a defensive end or an outside linebacker to a defensive end or a nose tackle to a D tackle or like Troy Anderson, an outside linebacker to an inside linebacker. So the number one thing I want is for these guys to be able to master the defense, know exactly what they're doing, and then play as fast as they can. And that's exactly what we're seeing in Bozeman, too. I think that, to your point, though, to compare and contrast these two things, one, I think the Grizz defense is very complicated. It took me a couple years to even figure out what was going on, watching it, breaking it down, all that stuff. I think now that they have it mastered, it makes it even more complicated for opposing defenses. You heard Coach Elliott say there, he said, they run so many fronts, it's just so stressful because you never know what they're in, you never know where the pressure's coming from. But on the Bobcat side of things, I don't think the scheme is nearly as complicated, but the effort level has been just as high. And I think that for the Grizz, it was learning the scheme and then learning the actual required effort it takes to play it. And Montana State, they're actually, I think, ahead of the learning curve when it comes to that element of it. But I know we're harping a lot on the defensive side of this thing, but these two teams, they're flying around, and it's really fun to watch.
I think you could make the argument these are the 2 best defenses in the country. I know that's very bombastic to say that, but just watching the effort and the performance from the first 2 weeks, it'll be a fun jockeying for position all year long. And I do have to give a lot of credit with what's going on in Bozeman. 2 first-time coordinators, Coulter.
Sure.
I thought that was going to be a sharper learning curve.
Yep.
And again, glass half full, glass half empty. You could look at it from a lot of different, perspectives. For Montana State, where's their first true measuring stick game?
I think that the road game at Portland State will be a little bit of one, but I think it's not until October 15th, Friday night, under the lights at Weber State, when it's on ESPNU, the first Big Sky Conference ESPNU game. That's the game that sort of everybody's looking at. My brother Brooks Nuanez, who helps me out with Skyline Sports we were talking, that's it. That's kind of like the next, after they had a good performance at Wyoming, kind of the next measuring stick was going to be that showdown in Ogden mid-October.
And 5-1 is going to be their record going into that.
Likely.
Very likely. And then the gauntlet starts. But for MSU, I think the schedule worked out great for them to where if they had to work out any kinks, and I thought there'd be more kinks in the first couple weeks, and it doesn't look like there's going to be. They have an absolutely overmatched San Diego team coming in this weekend. That should be a blowout win again, but the confidence is starting to build, and I think that's a huge word to talk about what's going on in both locker rooms. I knew there'd be confidence here in Missoula because it's been the same guys. They've been on the same page for a while, but the Cats have been able to build their confidence in that locker room that, hey, new coaching staff, the scheme works, our effort works, we're still really good. And I think it's going to be such a fun clash. I mean, the Big Sky Conference struck gold. Their two matchups that are going to be on the national spotlight are far and away their four best teams, and they're playing each other in huge spots in the season. More than likely, the Grizz and Eastern are going to be undefeated, both in the top 6 when they're playing each other in 3 weeks. And then the matchup that you just talked about for the Cats at Weber State, that's more than likely a top 10 showdown again, and you're going to see big-time conference championship implications on those two games.
Let's talk offense a little bit here on the Montana Football Hour. Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, in studio with me. Colter Nuanez, Montana Football Hour, brought to you in part by Stockman Bank. Stockman Bank, lending decisions are made by Montanans who understand Montana businesses. Stockman Bank has a strong commitment to our communities, and they take pride in giving back. They're Montanans serving Montanans. So let Stockman Bank show you the Montana brand of banking today. In Bozeman, Matt McKay threw 3 touchdowns. Willie Patterson caught a couple of those. He's been a guy from Tacoma who has been banged up throughout his Bobcat career, has never really got to showcase his true talents, but he did on Saturday. He looked good. Lance McCutcheon right now, a storybook start to his season for the Bozeman native. He's a guy that's played a lot of football at MSU, but has not gotten a lot of balls thrown his way because he's a 6'2", 210-pound receiver that was basically playing for a triple option team. So he was out there on the perimeter. He was an integral factor because he was having to block all the DBs, but he wasn't getting very many chances. Well, he had 7 catches for 121 yards and a touchdown. So good progress for MSU's offense. In Missoula, the 2 biggest factors offensively were the fact that the Grizzlies ran for nearly 250 yards, despite being on what would technically be their like 3rd, 4th, and 5th string running backs, maybe 4th and 5th and 6th.
I mean, if you count Marcus Knight, it would be 4, 5, and 6.
Amazing. And then the other factor is they got Malik Flowers involved. So we're going to talk about those 2 things. How is Montana rolling along, and how much more dangerous is their offense because they have so much diversity? Keep it right here on ESPN Radio. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway, and Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community and want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. Paul has established a reputation as the top legal mind in Missoula, claiming the Garden City's best attorney honors 13 different years. Ryan, Holloway, and Miller is a local firm with experience and intimate knowledge to help.
Who is Automated Living? Nick Anderson, born and raised in Missoula and a UM grad. He's a master of audio, video, and smart integration. Joe Hazel is a Montana native and an expert in security systems and surveillance cameras. And I am Don Verity, building relationships and technology solutions in Western Montana for over 25 years. We have a showroom on North Reserve where you can meet the team and demo the latest audio, video, security, and smart equipment for your home or business. Automated Living, life made easy.
is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
What up, Montana? Welcome back. Nuanez Now, 1029 ESPN Radio, as well as statewide television, SWX Montana TV. My good friend and colleague, Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, joining me here in studio. I'm Colter Nuanez. It's Northwest Motorsports Studio. Montana Football Hour. We do this the first hour of every Monday show, bringing in all of the best of the weekend that was for the Grizzlies, the Bobcats. Maybe we get into some high school football. A reminder, I know high school football and high school sports, big deal around here. We obviously put a high priority on that here at Nuanez Now. But we're going to be giving you a lot of high school football action on Tuesdays, and then we'll also get you prepped up for the upcoming week on Thursdays and Fridays as well. So we just have so much to get to here on these Mondays, especially with both Montana and Montana State rolling. The Montana Football Hour is presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine, right now, they're buying, selling, and trading. They have their end of summer clearance sale. Summer may be setting, but savings are on the rise. So go get pre-qualified today. You can stop by 4800 Grant Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealers in Montana. The Montana Football Hour also presented in part by Stockman Bank. I tell you this, as someone that is, I guess, in business with Stockman Bank, they took care of my mortgage for me, and it was so great. I mean, they helped me so much. I had no idea if I even could buy a house. I had no idea what the procedure was like. But I just went to Stockman Bank. They got me all set up with the right people, and I couldn't have done it without them. So very cool of them. But if you need any sort of bank you need, particularly if you're in the market for a mortgage or any sort of real estate transaction, head on down and see Stockman Bank. I see that we have a text here from a listener. By the way, 888-1029, that's 406-888-1029. And you can text that number and find us.
Now, to be clear, these are comments flying in on the brand new YouTube channel, not actually a text.
Cool, very cool.
That's right.
Okay, so a couple pieces to share here. First, hey guys, I love the YouTube stream. Any guesses on when the running backs can return? That's a good question. Seems like the FCS aren't giving the Grizz as high of votes as they maybe deserve, despite their 2 wins. Do you think the national media is holding out for the EWU game? And finally, Coulter, how hard is it to interview Bobby and have good questions both with him and the visiting coaches? Okay, so let's start at the last question. I actually don't think it is hard to interview Bobby Hauck. I know that's the narrative, but I express this sentiment on the show often, and I also always try to give our colleagues the same advice. You can't ask Bobby Hauck open-ended questions. you have to ask him a question. You have to start with the question and finish the question. And if you ask him the question, he'll give you a great answer.
I love that you got that question, not me, from someone that has to ask him about 88 questions a week, it seems like, with coaches shows and whatnot. I totally agree with you. I think that it comes from lack of preparation for people that ask him open-ended questions. If you have a purpose behind your question and you can back it up, don't just throw something out there. Sure. If you want a generic question, Bobby Houck will give you a generic answer and a short answer.
If you say, what does it feel like?
Oh, my goodness.
Or what was it like? He's not going to do it. You got to say, Coach, define defensive execution for me. Coach, what's it like for your defense? I guess I should say, how are you able to set
Finish
the edge?
the thought, though.
How are you able to set the edge so effectively? What does being able to set the edge effectively do for your defensive execution?
How did you disguise where Gavin Robertson was setting up pre-snap, and how did that change what you want to do defensively?
Exactly. If you like talking football, Coach Houck's a great guy.
He loves it. You just got to ask better questions.
Let's go now into the first of those three questions. Any guesses on when the running backs can return? I'm not really going there in terms of injury timelines because this sort of stuff is very sensitive in this day and age of college football. But I will say this. Marcus Knight's out for the foreseeable future, if not for the duration of this season. That remains to be seen, but he's certainly out for at least now and for the next while. Nick Ostmo, I believe, will return to the fold, but he's out right now on the shelf as well. And Xavier Harris did not play in this game either on Saturday. Yet Montana still averaged almost, was it 6 or 7 yards per carry? But they
over 6 again.
Over 6 per carry, 242 yards on the ground. Both Isaiah Childs and Junior Bergen had 75, 76 yards. And it really didn't matter who was getting the carries. I know that there's a lot of people that are a little bit surprised at the emergence of Junior Bergen. I mean, he came in as a wide receiver. He's only played running back for like a week. I'm not. I think it's a plug-and-play position, especially when you run a zone blocking scheme like Montana. And Bergen has exceptional field vision. I saw it in high school, so I was not surprised. I mean, if you just keep it simple for him, say, hey, outside stretch, take the play, find the seam, hit the gap. I mean, he's a dynamic athlete, and Isaiah Childs was great too.
You said it great with the plug and play. I think that as fans and everyone out there, we get infatuated with quarterback, running back, wide receiver, those skill positions. Well, guess what? Coach Houck and Montana are built reverse there. They feel that the quarterback shouldn't be the number one guy that the whole offense revolves around. And running back, whoever's available is who we're going to go with. And I thought that the field vision was great. I thought that you look at someone like an Isaiah Childs. He'd been waiting for this opportunity for a while. And Junior Bergen, my gosh. I mean, the guy 2 weeks ago was a wide receiver, and I fully expect him to go back to wide receiver when the...
Really?
Yes, I do. I do think he could go. He's a guy that could just play anywhere.
He's a slash.
Absolutely. I mean, and especially with how much that Coach Pease, Coach Rosenbaugh, and everyone else love to just make this offense multiple. I mean, I see him being such a hybrid guy during his Grizzly career and obviously an immediate impact. But from the running back situation, I do think that there's a chance, this sounds crazy, that you could see all three of those guys by the end of the season. Now, they're all going to be on different timelines, and everyone can find out the hard way. If you continue to try and ask Coach Houck about injuries, you're not going to get there with them. And it's truly a week-by-week deal. I think that Xavier Harris is probably the most likely to come back soon. And he was someone, Coach Houck even told me pregame, he was 50-50 for the contest. So that goes to show you how close he was. A lot of this, and we talked about this in August, when maybe it wasn't such a big factor. But these two games you could treat as a little bit of a ramp up where you wanted to get everyone healthy because of the early bye. And the Grizzlies, with them having the bye week this week, I think that was a huge decision on why they held Xavier Harris out.
And finally, a guy we got to touch on because when I first showed up to camp and saw him when he was a freshman, I thought to myself, wow, who's that guy? Because he looks the part. He's big. He's put together. And he's one of the fastest players in the country. And then when he first started getting kick return reps, he's lightning in a bottle. And he's a touchdown waiting to happen. But we've seen how awesome Malik Flowers can be with the ball in his hands and in space. But he's been in this logjam at the wide receiver position for the Grizzlies. I believe he only had one catch coming into the spring season.
Correct.
He had several catches in the spring. They got him a little bit more involved. But even then, I mean, when he caught a couple passes early, he caught a first down in the first quarter, and I was looking at Eric Tabor, Montana Sports Information Director. How many career catches does he have? And when you can add them up on, less than 10, that shows you just how long he has been waiting his turn. That said, he got involved in a big way on Saturday. Got multiple touchdown passes, over 100 yards receiving.
On 3 catches, which goes to show you every play was a big one.
Exactly. And so just cool for him to get more involved in the offense.
And the coaches have been telling us that, hey, Malik Flowers was the number one. That receiver room is loaded, as you mentioned, for a long time, and it's been waiting for Malik to get that opportunity. And the coaches had been praising Malik Flowers all of fall camp and even in off-season workouts that he is going to have a breakout year. Well, it took until game 2 for us to finally feel that. And that's just another weapon in the arsenal for Montana. I mean, where would you rank the 4 receivers? That's probably a conversation for a different day. But as of right now, I mean, you've got the likes of Sammy Akem, who has been very quiet these first 2 games despite 2 awesome wins. Mitch Roberts, Gabe Solser, Keelan White, Malik Flowers. It is just lot of riches, let's just say, when it comes to the wide receiving corps. But it was really cool for Malik to get involved, not only in the return game, but the passing game as well.
I've always thought this, though, that during Bobby Hauck's first tenure, Montana had this reputation as a team that just ran the ball down your throat. And, I mean, obviously, when you have NFL running backs like Lex Hilliard and Justin Green and Chase Reynolds, those guys are going to steal a lot of headlines because they all got drafted. They all played in the league for a long time. That offensive line was just so dynamite as well. But an embarrassment of riches as wide receiver has been a thing at Montana for a long time. I mean, those mid-2000s teams, Mark Mariani also got a lot of headlines, but Ryan Bagley, Mike Farrader, Eric Allen, Craig Chambers. I mean, there was dudes. The thing is, none of them had the postseason accolades that they deserve because they spread the ball around all the time. No, there was no such thing as a 1,000-yard receiver except for when Mariani was a senior.
And I think you're going to see that this year, too. I really do, that you're going to see it spread around a lot. And, oh, my gosh, my favorite, though, is trying to ask Coach Hauck a question post-game. And Greg Sundberg did it this week. Goes, so tell us how Malik got involved. Coach Hauck's favorite answer. Well, Cam just threw it where the ball was supposed to go. It's just one of those deals. But there's just so many weapons around, and that's a great point with Malik Flowers. The final part of that I'm interested in, though, too, about the national voters, because I am one of those 50 national voters.
Yep.
And your thoughts on, before we wrap up the Montana Football Hour, on the top 5, top 6 in the country. I think it's pretty consensus who the top 5 are.
Yeah.
And then you have a next tier of teams that I would really put Weber, Eastern, and the Cats are in there right now as well. But how would you maybe assess the top 5, top 10 right now, Colter?
Well, I think that the fact that there is some recency bias. The teams that played in the spring are getting a lot of votes. And Montana only kind of played in the spring, but it wasn't really relevant on a national level. So I do think that on one hand, it's hard to put anybody above the defending national champion Sam Houston or South Dakota State, who played for the national title. But it's also hard for me to believe that there's anybody that's operating at a higher level than Montana is right now. So to be determined, I suppose. The thing is, at this level, if you keep on winning, the ranking will take care of itself.
Yes, it will. And that's the one thing Coach Hauck's preaching as well. It creates a great conversation that we will have on a different day of, should there even be a poll before October 1st? Because that's a big part of this thing, too. You mentioned it. You're right. Sam Houston doesn't deserve to be overtaken. But if you just take the results from week 1 and week 2, it might be a different shakeup if you didn't do a preseason ranking. That's all.
This has been the Montana Football Hour. Riley Corcoran, the voice of the Grizz, joining me, Colter Nuanez, here at the Northwest Motorsports Studio. The Montana Football Hour is presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine has a end-of-summer clearance sale. Summer may be setting, but savings are on the rise. So head on down to 4800 Grand Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. The Montana Football Hour is also presented proudly by Stockman Bank. As Montana's brand of banking, Stockman Bank is proud to sponsor and support Grizz and Bobcat athletics. Good luck to the Grizzlies and the Bobcats throughout the Big Sky Conference and overall regular seasons. And thank you to all the players for your hard work and dedication. Go Grizz, go Bobcats. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking, member FDIC. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 coming at you. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningway. Can't wait to talk some NFL with a guy that knows better than anybody in the state of Montana. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio. Although it might sound daunting, getting your wisdom teeth out is just a part of life. No matter when you might need your wisdom teeth extracted, Dr. Gene Morris at Oral Surgical Associates in Missoula is the man you need to see. Dr. Morris has extensive experience and a reputation as a surgeon who's both gentle and detailed, and will make your wisdom teeth extraction process seem like a breeze. When you need your wisdom teeth removed, put your trust in Dr. Gene Morris at Oral Surgical Associates of Missoula. Saturday night, it's for all the marbles. In their inaugural season, the Missoula Paddleheads have been one of the most successful independent minor league baseball teams in the country. The Paddleheads raced to the first half Pioneer League pennant and have battled throughout the second half as well. And on Saturday night, September 11th, the Paddleheads host a one-game playoff for the right to go to the Pioneer League Championship Series. For more information on how to get tickets to Saturday's single-game showdown, visit GoPaddleheads.com. The postseason is on the horizon, so be sure to check out all the action with the Missoula Paddleheads.
We're planning a trip to Spain later this year.
But our Spanish
is pretty bad.
When you learn a language, you want to actually use it. Babbel is designed with that goal in mind. Babbel's conversation-based method teaches you real-life words and phrases. And with Babbel's interactive bite-sized lessons, you'll remember what you learned.
¿Cómo te llamas? ¿Cómo te llamas? ¿De dónde eres? ¿De dónde eres?
No matter your learning style or experience level, Babbel has lessons designed for you that will get you speaking quickly and confidently.
I tried learning Spanish before, but I couldn't stick with it until I found Babbel.
There's no easier way to learn another language.
Ahora hablamos español.
He just said now we speak Spanish.
I can't wait to use our new language skills on our upcoming adventures.
Babbel, language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Now try Babbel for free at Babbel.com. Just go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Babbel.com.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at StockmanBank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Bob Ward's Your Hunting Headquarters wants to remind you to keep an eye on that calendar. Don't miss out on opening day because you don't have the gear. Get into Bob Ward's now. You'll find the biggest and best selection of everything from scopes to shells, rifles to rangefinders, calls to camo, and much, much more. Visit your local Bob Ward's for in-store sales updated weekly. Hunters, your season is here. Head into Bob Ward's and gear up. Bob Ward's, sports and outdoors. Montana's best friend for the great outdoors for over 100 years.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The Grizz continued to dominate defensively. Brent Vegan earned his first win at Montana State, and Florence and Loyola each posted huge victories over the weekend. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The Montana Grizzlies played their first game at Washington Grizzly Stadium since December 5th of 2019, drilling Western Illinois 42-7 in front of a capacity crowd under the lights Saturday night in Missoula. The Grizz defense has not allowed a single point in 115 minutes of game time and has given up just one offensive touchdown this season on an opening drive to the number 20 Washington Huskies in Seattle in Montana. Season opener. UM allowed Western Illinois just 151 yards of total offense, rolling up 6 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in the process. Montana senior Cam Humphrey threw 5 touchdowns, and the Grizz rushed for 242 yards, despite their top 3 running backs missing the contest with various injuries. The Grizz have a bye this week. Montana State opened its home slate with a 45-7 drubbing of Drake in front of a capacity crowd for MSU's annual Gold Rush game at Bobcat Stadium Saturday night. Matt McKay threw for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, including 2 to Willie Patterson, and MSU senior Lance McCutcheon hauled in 7 passes for 121 yards and a 45-yard score as Vegan posted his first win as Bobcat head coach. Montana State hosts San Diego on Saturday. And finally, in the high school ranks, number 1 Florence destroyed number 7 Three Forks 43-0, while Missoula Loyola pulled out a 2014 win over defending Class B state champion Manhattan in overtime.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Garden City Plumbing and Heating. This is Nuanez Now on 102.9 ESPN Radio Missoula.
We'll be fighting in the streets
back in. Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula. As well as statewide television, SWX Montana TV. Great to be with you on a Monday. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. It seems like we've been waiting for this day forever and ever and ever. We've been waiting for college football's return for more than 600 days here in the Treasure State. But then last week was Labor Day, and so we didn't even have a show last Monday. So we're back in full force this Monday with the Montana Football Hour with voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, and myself, Colter Nuanez. Missed anything in that, we gave you full recaps of Montana's 42-7 victory over Western Illinois, as well as Montana State's 45-7 victory over Drake. A lot of parallels right now between the Bobcats and the Grizzlies. Both teams are big, strong, and fast on defense. Both teams are operating at a high level offensively. Both teams are getting good quarterback play. And both teams, to me, look like they're on a collision course later on in the season. Bedlam in Missoula, November 20th. Cannot wait for the Bobcat Grizz game to finally return to the Garden City after it seems like years and years and years. We've been waiting for that one. But if you missed anything in the first hour of today's show, you can find it on the Nuanez Now podcast, which is proudly presented by Sportsbet Montana, Blackfoot Communications, and the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Excited now to welcome in a guy who's become a good friend of mine, and it's been so fun to connect with him, whether it's just talking football or playing golf or, enjoying a nice steak dinner like we had the other night up at your place. Marty Morningweg, he's a former Grizz quarterback and a guy that coached in the NFL for more than 2 decades. This is the debut of a awesome new segment, the Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningweg. Coach, thanks so much for being here, man. How you doing?
Colter, it's good to be here. Let's rock and roll. What a great start by the Grizz. It has to be the very best start in the history of the Grizz Nation. Going to Washington, beating a ranked team, and then what a home opener Saturday.
Unbelievable atmosphere Saturday night in Missoula. I think that it was very clear that people around the Garden City have missed football quite a bit. I mean, the one thing that's been a little bit short the last couple of years that I was always disappointed in, because it was the thing when I was at school at Montana, was the student section, but they were out partying as well. I mean, it was sold out to the gills and awesome atmosphere. So super, super fun to have football back in the fold here in Missoula and Bozeman, all the way around the state of Montana. Let's start with you, though, and your family, because you have one son that's coaching. He's offensive coordinator at Division II level down in Texas. You have another son that's playing for Carroll College. So Saturdays are pretty busy for the Morningwegs.
I'll tell you what, Carroll College, they're 1-1 right now. Bobby Cade played my youngest son, caught a big pass in their latest win, and they had a bye week. However, I will tell you, Colter, we were at the Grizz, the Washington Stadium, early, because my oldest son coaching at MSU, Texas, he's offensive coordinator, and the quarterback coach were playing the number 5 ranked team, Texas A&M Commerce, in Division II, and they were down 23-0. And they win it 31-30.
Oh, man.
And then we watched the Grizz beat them up like a borrowed mule. What a great Saturday that was.
This is one thing. I think that when you start watching football across the collegiate landscape, you realize that obviously there are tiers between the FBS, the FCS, Division II, and Carroll, and the Frontier. But to me, it's not nearly as profound as I think people think it is. I mean, there's really good players at all these levels of football, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's good players coming out of every conference in the country. It's just that simple. And when you turn a NFL game on and you see the fellas say where they're from and how many small school athletes there are in the NFL, I think it would be surprising to most.
Let's start there then, because you coached in the NFL for a really long time. And it's been my notion for quite some time that, first of all, I think that the development of a football player can be hindered by hype. I think that if it was all linear, then every guy in the NFL would have been a 5-star recruit when he was in high school. But that's not true.
That's right.
And a lot of times it's the motivation for these guys to get better. So, I think that the stat was in the Super Bowl, I think 53% of the guys that played in the Super Bowl last year were they were like 2-star or lower recruits. So do you see that? I mean, do you think that maybe not being all that in a bag of chips when you're 18 years old is actually maybe one of the keys to becoming an elite NFL player?
Well, two things come to mind. I read an article many years ago. The college all-star teams typically have three or four star players in high school on them. Everybody else is a 2-star or less. Some of them were walk-ons. It's crazy. Now, you have to have enough talent.
Sure.
But that hard work, the toughness, the preparation, a body that's built to play the game goes a long, long way.
But a lot of times, two guys don't really truly develop all the way physically until they're older. I mean, J.J. Watt was once upon a time a skinny 2-star tight end, but then once he grew into his body and they say, okay, put your hand in the dirt, wow, now he's 6'7", 295. He's multiple-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year.
It happens all of the time. However, I will say I always loved to draft those fellas that were superstars in the 8th grade, in the 10th grade, in the 12th grade, all the way through college. They're likely going to do well in the NFL, but there's so many late maturers that end up making it to the NFL, and because of all their talent, once they get some really good coaching, they end up catching up and bypassing a man that's not quite as talented but has been good throughout his early career.
Let's talk about quarterback play broadly before we get into some of the best and maybe not so good of the NFL weekend. You made your name in the NFL, coaching quarterbacks for a long time. And I know that I think basically everybody that follows the NFL and follows football, period, they understand the broad premise that the quarterback is the most impactful and important position in sports, basically. It is the centerpiece. It's the focal point of everything that happens on a football field. But it's become even more so in the NFL with some of the rule changes and the way that franchises are structuring their rosters. But all that said, what do you think is the biggest challenge about playing quarterback in the NFL? Because lately we've seen younger and younger quarterbacks make bigger and bigger impacts right away. And we're going to get to some of those guys who have been maybe exceeding expectations early on. But, I mean, what do you think is the sort of the key factor for people, for quarterbacks acclimating to the position at the highest level?
Well, to become a great quarterback in the NFL, you have to have a certain amount of talent. And then you mix that with great coaching methods and then years and years and years of hard work, which many of these young men have gone through. And then you need decision-making, accuracy, timing, and gut instincts. So there's a lot that goes into becoming a great NFL quarterback. The one thing that I think shocks young men and their families to some extent is the media pressure and hype. The fella from BYU
Zach
that's
Wilson,
with the New York Jets, that was one of my big concerns with him. He's got to clear that hurdle. I just read on the way over that his mama got a little bit upset at the negative tweets or something like this. You know, you have to almost ignore everything but you care very much about what goes on inside of the building. Players, coaches, scouts, equipment man, all that. Those are the people who make it run, and ignore all of the rest.
Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningweg here on ESPN Radio, as well as statewide television, SWX Montana Television. Proud presenting sponsors of the Monday afternoon quarterback, Brett's RV and Marine, as well as Alpine Touch. If you need some good seasoning, if you don't know what Alpine Touch is yet, I don't know if you're a true Montanan, but you're going to go want to pick some Alpine Touch up. I promise you this. Alpine Touch is the best spices you're going to find anywhere. I use that pepper blend on my eggs. I use the traditional, just standard seasoning on my steaks. You can go get the Grand Slam package, alpinetouch.com, or any retail location across the state of Montana. So go get yourself some Alpine Touch. You're going to want to do that for sure. And Brett's RV and Marine, they are proud to be the largest dealer of any Montana dealer when it comes to RVs. They showcase the best inventory in the state at volume discount prices with a service department that stands behind their products. Brett's RV and Marine has been locally owned and operated for more than 50 years. They have 75 RV and boat brands to choose from, and they offer the largest inventory under the big sky. Stop by 4800 Grand Creek Road and start your next adventure with your premier RV dealer, Brett's RV and Marine. Coach, I want to ask you two more questions about the quarterback position in the NFL broadly. One, there was a great article in Sports Illustrated by Greg Bishop last year, and it was about the phenomenon of all of these older quarterbacks playing in the league. How are guys like Tom Brady and Phillip Rivers, I guess he's now retired, but he was playing last year, and Drew Brees, who's now retired. But, I mean, there was a lot of guys in their late 30s to early 40s playing in the league. And basically the premise was that strong arm, mobile, stretch the pocket, all that stuff, it gives you a little bit of an advantage, but really it's right here. It's in your mind. It's about taking pictures. And the more pictures you have in your brain, the better you're going to be. We see with Tom Brady, he can't run a lick. It doesn't matter because he's got the quickest release in the league still. He's throwing darts. He's not even playing football. He's just tossing darts. So what do you think of that? I mean, why is it that it seems now, at this day and age, older guys can play for a lot longer than they ever have before?
Well, I will tell you, there are two things that I think are really important to the phenomenon. Number one is rule changes. They're protecting the quarterback way more.
Yes.
If you remember just, 10, 15, 2 decades ago, it was splatter time.
Oh, buddy.
So guys are staying just a little bit more healthy. They're taking care of themselves. Tom Brady, as you know, he takes care of himself big time. And then, so if you can stay healthy, you're talking about experience.
Sure.
The pictures, all of those reps. You get better and better as you age as a quarterback. Now, I will tell you, the run and gun style goes a long way for 2, 3, 4 years. And then you better become a great drop back quarterback, or even still, you're going to get an injury here and there, and it's going to cut your career short. So those are the two things, the rule changes and the experience that you accumulate playing. Very little things surprise a Tom Brady or an aging quarterback, and that will equal an extra 3 points, an extra 7 points every game.
And that's what NFL games are. I mean, they're 3 to 7 points. It's amazing. I always forget every year, two things I always forget. Just how competitive every single NFL game is. It's very rare you get like what happened with the Saints and the Packers yesterday. It's almost always back and forth all the way the last couple minutes. But it's also just so startling, the speed, man. I mean, the Grizzlies right now are playing with exceptional speed. And being a Washington Grizz, you could see it on full display Saturday night. It was unbelievable. But then you turn on the NFL, it's not even the same sport. I mean, the speed is just, it's insane.
Yeah, that's where every position has to acclimate themselves as a rookie to the speed of the game. But especially the quarterback position, because it is so much faster. And let me just tell you, it's faster than college. It's faster than training camp and mini camps. It's faster than preseason. And then once you get down the stretch and into the playoffs, you start lighting it up even more. It is a fast game. Big men, typically big men, moving fast.
Last question for you then on the quarterbacks, because you mentioned the fact that you have to mitigate all these distractions. And I've thought this for a while. Cam Newton was released in New England, and I think that Cam has regressed physically a little bit. But to me, the number one story there was the fact that you just can't have Cam Newton as your backup quarterback because he comes with so many headlines. That is going to be a distraction for your rookie no matter what, because there's going to be a story in the newspaper every day about Cam Newton, even if he's not taking any snaps, right?
Well, there is something to that. Some organizations and coaches and owners and GMs are a little bit more comfortable with it than others. If you remember, I took Mike Vick with Philadelphia out of the can,
right?
As the Wildcat backup type fellow. So there is something to that. Going back to the quarterback situation, you are the face of the franchise as well. There is a little bit of pressure that way as well. So if you're trying to train a young man to become the face of your franchise at the most important position in all sports, like you said, and then you have a man that's already done it to some extent, that's the backup, it chinks at that just a little bit. So understood on that point that you just made.
Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningweg here on Nuanez Now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, presented in part by Alpine Touch as well as Brett's RV and Marine. All right, Coach, let's talk about the weekend that was in the NFL. first and foremost, got kicked off with a barn burner, a thriller on Thursday night. Back and forth, back and forth. A lot of mistakes, actually, on both sides, some turnovers. But it comes down to the Cowboys marching down the field for what looks like a game-winning drive. But as soon as they scored, I said, nope, they screwed up. They gave Tom Brady too much time.
Too much time, and I will tell you that goes into preparation, by the way. When you're playing a great quarterback that's excellent in 2 minutes, even if you're behind, you try to chew as much as you can. And look, Tom Brady's team, I believe they turned it over 4 times.
They did.
Most teams will not win turning the ball over 4 times, but because of Tom Brady and some other fellas, they're a highly talented team. They ended up overcoming 4 turnovers. So that gets back, Coulter, first games of the season. Some crazy things tend to happen, and you can't evaluate a team on that first game, even though to the fans and the owners to some extent even, it's like a Super Bowl, that first game of the season.
No question. And I think that's one thing worth noting. I always put this into the 3 categories, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that just helps me organize our conversation. But one of the things I wrote down for the bad was week 1 overreactions, because I think that you always see it. I still think the Bills are one of the favorites in the AFC, but they gave up a lead late to the Steelers. And by the way, the Steelers aren't half bad either. I mean, the Steelers are going to get it back on track. They're one of the proud franchises in the NFL. But just overall, I mean, you can't overreact to week 1, right? You still got 16 games left to play.
That's right. Teams will either get better or get worse, and some of it is because of hard work and preparation and an old school mentality. The teams that get worse don't have that, or they get decimated by injuries. By week 15, many of these teams are a totally different team.
For sure.
Yeah, because of their personnel. They've evolved schematically. They've learned, usually by game 4 or 5, you sort of know your team just a little bit, but it changes throughout the season because of injury. But you add things and delete things, and you end up doing a great job coaching staff-wise of playing to your players' strengths. And it takes some time to figure that out on occasion.
When you were coaching in the NFL, do you remember, is there any season opener that stands out to you in terms of the impact it had on your team, whether it was a big win or a loss early on?
Well, I'll tell you, a big win has little effect because it's a marathon season.
Right.
I remember in Philadelphia, it must have been maybe 2003. I might be a year off right there. But we got
Don McNabb's still quarterback at that moment in time.
McNabb's a quarterback. And it was the opening game of the new stadium, and we got waxed. I mean, it was ugly by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers came in and beat us up like a borrowed mule. And we recovered. In fact, I believe it was that year we lost our first 2 ball games, and it looked ugly. But we knew we were a good team. We recovered, ended up winning the division. I believe that was the year we lost in the NFC Championship game.
Well, that was like that was just basically what it was for Philadelphia for a while, right? It was like NFC Championship game every single year. You guys were making some pretty good runs.
Yeah, we did about everything that you could there, except actually win the Super Bowl. We lost that Super Bowl in Jacksonville.
Monday afternoon quarterback with Marty Morningweg, former Grizz quarterback and longtime offensive coach in the NFL, is presented in part by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine, they have their late summer sale, end of summer clearance sale. Summer may be setting, but savings are on the rise. Get pre-qualified today. You can stop by 4800 Grant Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. All right, Coach, probably the most eye-opening result yesterday was the New Orleans Saints hanging it on the Green Bay Packers. There was so much drama surrounding Aaron Rodgers during the offseason. I don't know if I'm ready to say that that was the full cause of the 38-3 loss the Packers suffered, but the silver lining, probably the positive spin out of this thing was Jameis Winston. He's been sort of maligned after having his the season in Tampa Bay where he threw a bunch of picks and then basically was forced to be a backup last year. But now he takes the reins. He throws 5 touchdowns. So what did you think of the New Orleans-Green Bay game?
Did not surprise me with Jameis Winston. He's done it before. He's done it in college. He's done it in NFL. Now, his challenge is to play at that level on a consistent basis, because if you remember, when he was playing for the Super Bowl winning coach in Tampa, it would be a great game, and then they'd throw 3 or 4 picks. Two great games and throw 3 or 4 picks. So that's his challenge, and I suspect his coach in New Orleans, Sean Payton, and years of maturity. There's been a couple of years here for him to mature. It may very well work where he becomes that high-level player on a consistent basis. Now, the other side surprised me just a little bit, and that didn't look good. But I will tell you, in my experience, the improvement between Game 1 and Game 2 is huge in some cases. Every now and then, it's a big jump between Game 2 and 3. But that jump between Game 1 and 2 might be big for the Green Bay Packers. They've got to get the thing right, though. It looked like they weren't ready to play. It looked like they were out of sorts just a little bit. I think both of those teams are going to end up being 2 very good teams in the NFL.
Let's talk about the Eagles. You were most recently in Philadelphia, your last stint coaching, and the Eagles have gone through it a little bit since winning the Super Bowl. Oftentimes it happens like that because of the salary cap and the way things go down. I mean, you win the Super Bowl with a bunch of veterans, and then all of a sudden guys need to get paid. You can't afford to keep everybody. There's also, like former Los Angeles Lakers coach Pat Riley used to always talk about the disease of me, the disease of more. You know, everybody wants more. They want more for me. But all that said, it sort of just always ebbs and flows in the NFL. But yesterday in particular, I think a lot of people were thinking the Eagles were going to be in line for a top 10 pick, but they didn't look like that against Atlanta. Jalen Hurts looked great. I know you were around Jalen Hurts a little bit when he first came out of Oklahoma. Your thoughts on the Eagles' victory?
Well, I'm a big Jalen Hurts fan. He's got the talent. He's got the instincts. I thought he made a huge jump when he went from Alabama to Oklahoma as far as throwing the football accurately and decisive. And then he made a big jump with us last year in Philadelphia. People hammered him on his accuracy. Well, he just threw for 77%. Don't bet against Jalen Hurts because he's built the right way. He is a tough man mentally and physically. The Eagles look great. The Atlanta ball club, didn't look good. They've
been sort of spiraling since the Super Bowl meltdown. They've been spiraling since then.
Yeah, I'm just not sure if they're quite. If you're just south of being talented enough, it's a big gap in the NFL. As a team, if you're just south with your preparation and your hard work for that 1 week, it could be a slap in the face. That's how important that talent, hard work, and preparation is.
Monday afternoon quarterback Marty Morningway joined me, Colter Nuanez, here in studio. This is presented in part by Alpine Touch. Visit alpinetouch.com for all of your spice needs. They also got their sunflower seeds back on the shelves as well, and they also have great barbecue sauce. They have all sorts of stuff for you, no matter what you're doing outside. It's going to be an extended summer. I can already feel it. We're going to have a little bit of late summer weather into September and October, so it's still grilling season. Go check out alpinetouch.com. The only piece of fandom I got left, Coach, is for the Minnesota Vikings. And I had under the good Joe Burrow and under the bad the Vikings, because I can always tell the stat line even if I don't even see a second of the game. When Kirk Cousins throws for 350 plus, that's not good, because the Vikings got one of the best running backs in the NFL. That means Dalvin Cook didn't do much, which he didn't yesterday. But on the other side of this, on the positive note, great to see Joe Burrow back, because he's a transcendent talent, and it was really terrible to watch him get hurt last year. So your take on the return of the Heisman Trophy winner to Cincinnati?
Yeah, Joe Burrow, talented young man. And on occasion, those injuries will set you back a long way. He's recovered from that, and it looks like he's off and running. So what a great story that is already early in a young man's career at the quarterback spot. And then Minnesota, you're exactly right. That head coach's mentality is play great defense, run the football, play action, a little bit of movement, and you win the game 24-10. And if they're not quite good enough on defense, then Kirk Cousins is going to have to throw for 400, and it's not going to be good. And they're in a pretty good division, I suspect, again this year.
Last one for you, Coach. We got to talk about last night's game. I have always been a big-time Matt Stafford fan. I think Matt Stafford has been stuck in a tough situation for the majority of his career. And now he's in Los Angeles. I'm still not ready to go to fully anoint Sean McVay. I think he's a good offensive mind. I think he got a little bit overhyped when he took the Rams to the Super Bowl in year 2. But that aside, Matt Stafford has always had the talent. And last night you saw what he can do when he has talent around him. So your thoughts on Los Angeles' Sunday Night Football victory over the Bears?
Yeah, a couple of things. Matt Stafford, I loved him coming out.
Yeah.
The man can throw the football. He's got great vision and instincts, on and on and on. I thought he carried the Detroit Lions for many years.
For sure.
And then all of a sudden, it got to be too much. And then all of a sudden, he's throwing way too many picks. He's getting sacked too much. So now he goes a little bit different system. You can see they're moving him, which is not one of his strengths, but you have to move any quarterback just a little bit to take care of the oncoming pass rushers. And I think Sean McVay is just a heck of a talented young coach, and he's going to put him in all of these situations that play toward his strengths, and then it'll be a little bit conservative, so he'll keep him out of the mess that he was in Detroit, and the talent around him is astronomical. I think that they've got a really good chance to make a big-time run this year as long as they stay healthy. And my man, Deshaun Jackson, adds a little spice in there as well. I think he's in his, 13th, 14th year.
He's been in the league forever.
Yeah, he can still run and still go track a ball. So you have to, a defensive-minded team has to take that into account on every play that Deshaun Jackson's in. I thought that was a great acquisition with all the other players they have around.
And shout out Cooper Kupp. It'll never stop being cool for me to see Cooper Kupp tearing it up in the NFL. I never forget, I watched his second conference game ever when he was a freshman at Eastern Washington, and I remember thinking, that's a guy I got to get to know because that guy's going to be playing football for as long as he wants. And 4 years later, he was the most productive receiver in the history of college football at Eastern Washington, and he hasn't missed a beat in the NFL. He's a special, special player, and it's fun to watch.
Unique player. He sort of went from a Big Sky, Eastern Washington, right, school, and seamlessly transitioned into the NFL. And to do that, you have to be sort of natural.
Yep.
You have to be really smart.
Yep.
You've got to stay healthy, and then you have to have an opportunity.
Yep.
And all of those things came true for him, and he is wrong. What a fine player he is.
He's got the blueprint, too, because his grandfather is an NFL Hall of Famer. His father played in the NFL, so he's got guys giving him some advice on how to operate a little bit, too.
But then you have to take it and go do it
That's
as
right.
well, yeah. And so he's very, very good. Impressive young player.
The first of many. We will do this during the 5 o'clock hour on Mondays from here through the end of football. It's the Monday afternoon quarterback with our good friend and friend of this show, Marty Morningweg, here on ESPN Radio as well as SWX Montana Television. Monday afternoon quarterback is presented proudly by Brett's RV and Marine. Brett's RV and Marine has their end of summer clearance sale. Summer may be setting, but savings are on the rise. So go get pre-qualified today. Brett's RV and Marine has been locally owned and operated for more than 50 years, so stop by 4800 Grant Creek Road and start your next adventure with the premier RV dealer in Montana. Coach, phenomenal. Thanks so much for swinging by.
You're making my mouth water talking about that Alpine Spice.
That's
Go
right.
get some.
That's exactly right. The Missoula Paddleheads, they're rolling. They got a chance to take the championship for all the marbles starting tonight down at Oregon Park Allegiance Field. Paddleheads won their one-game playoff to get into the Pioneer League Championship Series. The Boise Hawks are in town tonight. Jeff Safford, the voice of Missoula Paddleheads, will give us a preview as baseball season winds to an end in the Garden City. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
Who is Automated Living? Nick Anderson, born and raised in Missoula and a UM grad. He's a master of audio, video, and smart integration. Joe Hazel is a Montana native and an expert in security systems and surveillance cameras. And I am Don Verity, building relationships and technology solutions in Western Montana for over 25 years. We have a showroom on North Reserve where you can meet the team and demo the latest audio, video, security, and smart equipment for your home or business. Automated Living, life made easy.
Heroin, fentanyl, prescription pain relievers like Oxy and hydrocodone. All are opioids that when misused can cause an overdose. Naloxone is a medication that can reverse an opioid overdose. Naloxone is available at no cost through select community organizations in Montana. No prescription is needed. Opioid overdoses are increasing. Having naloxone on hand can save a life. Reverse opioid overdoses with naloxone. Learn more at naloxone.mt.gov. Brought to you by DPHHS.
Is it time to get your quality of life back? At Missoula Bone and Joint on Mullen Road, our goal is to provide a comprehensive team approach in order to address all of your orthopedic needs. Neck to toe, we are here for you. If you're considering surgery this year, now is the time to schedule the initial comprehensive evaluation so you can learn about all your options and make an informed decision about what is right for you. Missoula Bone and Joint, quality care from people who care.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
Every 65 seconds, someone is affected with Alzheimer's or other dementias. Many become isolated at a time when help is most needed. If you or someone you love is affected, help is available, both for people with memory loss and their caregivers. Memory loss can feel frightening, but you are not alone. Call the free 24/7 Alzheimer's Association helpline, 800-272-3900, for guidance and support. Brought to you by the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services.
It's almost time for the second annual Piano Palooza, benefiting Ronald McDonald House of Western Montana. Join in on the fun with this live stream event Wednesday, September 15th, starting at 7 p.m. If you liked last year, you'll love it this year. If you missed it last year, don't make the same mistake. Join us live from Seattle with dueling pianos, party boxes, and other surprises as we help families who rely on the Ronald McDonald House to be their home. Piano Palooza. Get tickets and more info today at rmhcwesternmontana.org.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
The Grizz continued to dominate defensively. Brent Vegan earned his first win at Montana State, and Florence and Loyola each posted huge victories over the weekend. Hello, I am Colter Nuanez. The Montana Grizzlies played their first game at Washington Grizzly Stadium since December 5th of 2019, drilling Western Illinois 42-7 in front of a capacity crowd under the lights Saturday night in Missoula. The Grizz defense has not allowed a single point in 115 minutes of game time and has given up just one offensive touchdown this season on an opening drive to the number 20 Washington Huskies in Seattle in Montana's season opener. UM allowed Western Illinois just 151 yards of total offense, rolling up 6 sacks and 11 tackles for loss in the process. Montana senior Cam Humphrey threw 5 touchdowns, and the Grizz rushed for 242 yards despite their top 3 running backs missing the contest with various injuries. The Grizz have a bye this week. Montana State opened its home slate with a 45-7 drubbing of Drake in front of a capacity crowd for MSU's annual Gold Rush game at Bobcat Stadium Saturday night. Matt McKay threw for 256 yards and 3 touchdowns, including 2 to Willie Patterson, and MSU senior Lance McCutcheon hauled in 7 passes for 121 yards and a 45-yard score as Vegan posted his first win as Bobcat head coach. Montana State hosts San Diego on Saturday. And finally, in the high school ranks, number 1 Florence destroyed number 7 Three Forks 43-0, while Missoula Loyola pulled out a 2014 win over defending Class B state champion Manhattan in overtime.
This ESPN Missoula Sports Center is brought to you by Garden City Plumbing and Heating. 1, 2, 3. Nuanez now on ESPN Radio.
Welcome back here. Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, as well as. Welcome back. Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, SWX Montana Television, broadcasting to you live from the Northwest Motorsport Studio. Northwest Motorsport is located in Missoula at the corner of Stevens and Mount, and also available online, nwmsrocks.com. Awesome show so far, and as one thing begins, that's college football around the great state of Montana. Another thing starts to come to an end, but there's still a lot in front of the Missoula Paddleheads. Saturday night, the Paddleheads punched their ticket to the Pioneer League Championship Series. They took down the Idaho Falls Chuckers in an 11-2 victory to move into the championship series, which begins tonight. Ogren Park Allegiance Field against the Boise Hawks. We go now to the Rankish Brothers RV phone line, and we welcome in the voice of the Missoula Paddleheads. The guy's been doing a phenomenal job for us here at ESPN Radio all season long. He's Jeff Safford. Jeff, this is what play-by-play guys dream about, one-game playoffs into then a championship playoff series. Just your thoughts on Saturday night's victory and punching that ticket to the championship series for the Paddleheads.
Well, it sure was an exciting night for Missoula. I mean, Michael Schlack touched on it after the game. Whenever you go into a post-season scenario like that where you're playing a one-game playoff, it's a little bit nerve-wracking. You know, anything can happen in one game despite Paddleheads having so much success, but he really felt that his team just, once that first pitch went by, that they locked in, and it was just another game, and he was happy with how they executed the game plan. And when you can hold down a Chucker offense like that ranked first in a lot of different categories in the Pioneer, whether it be on base percentage or team batting average, first in doubles, first in triples, when you hold a team like that to 2 runs and just 1 extra base hit the entire night, obviously they did their job, and here they are just a couple of wins away potentially from a Pioneer League championship.
This was probably a lot of pressure for these guys coming into this game because it was a one-and-done scenario. The Paddleheads took home the pennant for both the first and second halves of the Pioneer League season, but it still just came down to one game, and if they would have lost, it would have been all but over. So what was the feeling amongst the team? Could you feel that pressure, or did you think they were kind of just a confident group coming in?
You know, like I'm kind of talking about, when it's a one-game scenario, it definitely was a little bit uneasy, but I think this team was confident. They've been playing with a certain level of confidence all season long, and I think they just tried to focus on the things that have gotten them there, and give credit to Michael Schlack and Bobby Brown, Mason Prisbilla, the coaching staff. They put a great plan together on attacking that Chucker club, and now they're here in the championship series, and anything can happen. This Boise team has been playing good baseball here in the second half, so I'm looking forward to a good series.
Jeff Safford, voice of the Missoula Paddleheads, joining us here on Nuanez Now. The Paddleheads take on Boise Hawks in the first of a 3-game series, or I guess a best of 2 out of 3 series. So, Jeff, just take us through the format of this thing. Basically, 2 wins, and the Paddleheads are champions of the Pioneer League. But what sort of just the next week look like?
Yes, it's like you mentioned, it's a best 2 out of 3 series, and the first game, obviously being tonight in the Garden City. There are a couple of tickets still available, so if you want to come out to the yard tonight and support the Paddleheads, come on down. We'd love to have you here. You can go online, get your tickets, go paddleheads.com, or come to the box office. That opens up about an hour before first pitch. But in terms of the schedule for the rest of the week, after tonight, tomorrow, it will be a travel day, as this series will now shift to Memorial Stadium after tonight, and Game 2 will be on Wednesday night at 6:30 from Memorial Stadium in Boise, and then, if necessary, Game 3 would be the next night on Thursday. But again, if either team were to win the first 2, then obviously that third game would not be played. So that's kind of what the schedule we got lined up for this week.
What do you anticipate being the biggest difference in this championship series compared to some of the regular season matchups between these 2 teams?
Well, the biggest thing will be the strategy of the pitching, considering that obviously this being a 3-game series, if you lose 1 game, it's not the end of the road like a 1-game playoff like the Paddleheads just played, but still, you're 2 games away from a league championship, so I would expect both teams to throw the book basically at one another, pitching-wise, seeing a lot of starting pitchers come in in relief stints, throwing on short rest, whatever it takes to get yourself to the finish line, because you really don't have to worry about tomorrow, because there aren't very many tomorrows left, and there's a league championship on the line. Another thing to look for will be potential timely pinch hitters. And the one guy that I would take a look at on the Missoula side especially is Luke Navigato, a guy that's been struggling with injuries all season long, has popped out his shoulder a couple of times, dislocated his shoulder, did so in late July, was on the inactive list for about a month or 6 weeks, but was activated just before the end of the regular season. Only got a couple of at-bats in game settings, was the DH in the last game of the regular season, but when he's been out there, it's been a very productive bat, hitting around 350, 15 doubles in 30 games or so, so a very good bat, and could potentially be used in a big spot down the stretch off the bench as kind of a role player type guy, kind of a Roy Hobbs, if you will, if you follow baseball, kind of hobble him out there, and hopefully he can swing the bat. So hopefully he'll be able to come through if called upon in this series and see some wacky pitching exchanges. Another thing also to keep in mind is that there will be no knockouts. So we've seen the knockout rounds take place after the 9th inning. During the regular season, that will not be the case. In the postseason, it will be old school extra innings baseball. The Hawks had to play a 12-inning, 5-hour marathon just to get to this point. So could be in for something like that on a Monday night here in Missoula.
When it comes to pitching, by the way, Jeff Safford, Missoula Paddleheads, he's the voice of the Paddleheads, joining us here on Nuanez now. When it comes to pitching rotations and I guess pitching substitutions, how often you go to the bullpen, this is sort of it. I mean, there's only going to be at the maximum 3 games left. So you expect there to be sort of all caution thrown to the wind and see as many of the best pitchers as both of these squads have?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Matt Dallas, the ace of the Boise Hawks, even tonight for an inning or two if they felt the need for it, even though he was the starting pitcher in that one-game playoff the other night. Because like you said, there really is no tomorrow. And we saw it a little bit in that playoff game when the other bird, Idaho Bird, when the Chuckers were here with their starter Nick Floyd, who was struggling a bit in the first inning. A lot of times during the regular season, you'll see the manager try to ride it out a little bit, at least trying to get him through 2 or 3, but that was not the case at all. He was running into a little bit of trouble, couple of walks, couple runs on the board, and boom, that was it. He was out of there. So that's the type of thing I would expect to see in this series as well. If you see a starting pitcher go out there and struggle even a little bit, show a little bit of vulnerability, he could very well be out of the game very quickly. And they could be going with the bullpen from that point on, throwing caution to the wind, knowing that it's 2 wins, and it doesn't matter how you get there, you just got to get them some way anyway.
Will the regular season matchups between these two teams play a factor in this? And if so, what can you take from those that maybe sets trends or is sort of a preview of what we might see this next week or so?
Well, if you look at how these two teams matched up in the regular season, you would see that Missoula had the big edge for the majority of the time, going 10-2 during the regular season, but this is a very different Boise club than what we saw in the first half, seeing a lot more power. That's the main thing that's led to the improved Boise Hawk club, is they have a number of right-handed batters that can really swing it from a power perspective, whether you're looking at Gonzalez, Ezequiel Gonzalez, or Vladimir Golindo, 2 guys, both over 20 home runs on the regular season. They're going up there trying to pull the ball and have great power numbers. They're 3rd in the league in home runs, so that's something that they will look to do much better than what they've done in the past. But also, I think their pitching has been a lot better. It was kind of Matt Dallas and everybody else, so to speak, at the beginning of the season, but now you've seen young guys like Matt Gabbard, and kind of an interesting story Gabbard is. He was kind of a refugee, so to speak, from that Boise State baseball program that was lost due to Title IX. Gabbard's here now with his old manager from Boise State, Gary Van Tall, the manager of the Boise Hawks, only 19 years old, but he's pitched very well against these Missoula Paddleheads in the past, so that will definitely weigh into the decision if he comes in at some point. But But looking at how these two teams played against each other during the regular season, you can't put everything when getting ready for those games just on the regular season because you're looking at two different clubs. Even the Paddleheads, we've seen new guys show up like Jason Newman. A.J. Wright has been fantastic. The switch hitting Chris Issei, the former Billings Mustang, also in the lineup tonight for Missoula. So they look different in numerous aspects also. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of adjustments made in series in these next couple of games. So it will be fun to see.
Exciting for Missoula, exciting for us here at ESPN Radio, and excited for you, Jeff, to be able to call a championship series. You've done a great job all summer, and a great reward for you. The Missoula Paddleheads playing in the Pioneer League Championship Series beginning tonight, Corcoran Park, Allegiance Field, 7:05 first pitch. If you cannot make it down to the field, you can find all the action right here on 102.9 ESPN Radio. And this guy, Jeff Safford, he'll be on the call. Jeff, best of luck with the call tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, sounds good, Coulter. Thank you.
Take you home on a Monday, give you a preview Tuesday. Keep it right here, ESPN Radio.
Oh, I love family road trips. Wind in my ears.
Good dog.
Praise in my mouth. And peace of mind, knowing Les Schwab did our tires, brakes, and alignment. Like Les Schwab, my family's safety is my first priority. Well, that and squeaky toys.
Swing by today and get road trip ready with our always free pre-trip safety check. Les Schwab Tires. Applies to passenger cars, SUVs, and light trucks only. Details at leschwab.com/safety.
The sports memorabilia and trading card industry is heating up because of an increased demand, a global market, and reinvigorated collection and collectors. Specialty trading cards have never been more popular. Whether you are interested in checking out some of the hottest items on the market or perusing through a catalog of some of your favorite vintage players, Zootown Sports Cards offers the most elite options in all of Western Montana. Start your collection or bolster it today by stopping into Zootown Sports Cards at the corner of Higgins and South in Missoula.
The world of real estate is always evolving. That's more true now than ever. If you are a longtime Missoulian that is looking to upgrade or downsize, it might be the best time yet to sell. If you're in the position to buy something new, today might be the best time to buy. And no matter what questions you have when it comes to residential or commercial real estate, Mike Nugent and the professionals at Berkshire Hathaway in Missoula have your answers. To find out what Mike can do for you, give him a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Like most Montanans, we love a good steak. And because we're the Montana Club, we take the steaks we serve very seriously. We're confident to say that our custom grilled steaks are as good a steak as you're going to get. Now we're proud to add regionally sourced, naturally raised Castle Rock Bison ribeye to our selection. And remember, the Montana Club steak entrees include the sides. Come into the Montana Club today for an unrivaled steak experience. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Why build a work history at a job when you can build a future in your own business? Westpac Wealth Partners is looking for entrepreneurial-minded people who are ready to take their future into their own hands. Nick Tabor and his associates provide clients with financial tools and tested solutions for navigating this complex financial climate. Westpac Wealth also has a work culture that has been recognized as a best workplace in Fortune magazine. If you're ready to start building a business in a long-term career, apply at westpacwealth.com. Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC is not an affiliate or subsidiary of PAS or Guardian. Insurance products offered through Westpac Wealth Partners and Insurance Services, LLC, a DBA of Westpac Wealth Partners, LLC.
When you need just a little boost to help you make it through the rest of the day, stop by Florence Coffee for a soothing cup of tea, hot or iced. You can choose from a wide variety of flavors to fit your mood, like relaxing Montana Gold, flavorful Mountain Huckleberry, or zesty Lemon Mint. Stop by any Florence Coffee location for some delicious tea or visit us at florencecoffeeco.com.
The best flavor under the big sky, Florence Coffee Company.
1, 2, 3. Nuanez now on ESPN Radio.
Remind me tomorrow, Tommy. I read a hilarious analysis of Pearl Jam. We don't have time for it today, but when I read it, I thought Tommy could have for sure written this, just shredding Pearl Jam to shreds.
I can't wait for this tomorrow.
I can't either. Nuanez now, 102.9 ESPN Missoula, SWX Montana Television. Awesome show today. Thanks for everybody for swinging on by. Riley Corcoran, voice of the Grizz, joined me for the Montana Football Hour, breaking down both Montana and Montana State's resounding football victories over the weekend. We also debuted an awesome news segment, the Monday Afternoon Quarterback, with Marty Morningweg, breaking down all the NFL storylines coming out of the first weekend of the NFL. And we also heard from Jeff Safford, the voice of the Missoula Paddleheads, as the Paddleheads prepare for the first game of a best 2 out of 3 Pioneer League Championship Series that starts tonight in Missoula against the Boise Hawks. Thanks to everybody who swung by our pregame show on Saturday before the Grizz game. We had a box outside, ton of registrations for our Twisted Tea giveaway. It's our Twisted Tea tailgate show, and we have a chance for 2 camp chairs and a vintage Twisted Tea cooler. And I did the drawing right now, and congratulations to Casey. So you don't need to do anything, no callers or anything like that. I have the winning ticket right here, so congratulations to Casey. We'll give you a call. We'll figure out a way to get you your Twisted Tea chairs and coolers. But thanks to everybody for swinging by. We'll be at the Chamber of Commerce parking lot for an hour and a half before and an hour after each Montana home game. So be sure to come on and swing by our ESPN Twisted Tailgate College Game Day show. Bunch of good people coming on tomorrow as well. We'll hear from Andrew Houghton. We'll hear from Bryson Smith. He's from the Missoula Country Club. Justin Engel, and much more. See you tomorrow, 4 p.m. Hey, it's Colter Nuanez from Nuanez Now, here with Brent Wahlberg of the Wahlberg team at Windermere Real Estate. It's a complicated real estate market right now. What do you think is the biggest challenge?
This is a real tough market for buyers because what we have right now is an unprecedented lack of available options, low supply. You have to be extra competitive. You've got to make your first offer your strongest offer. Experts like myself in this market can really help people do that.
Call Brent Wahlberg and the Wahlberg team at 529-4663 today. Paul Ryan is a name that's been synonymous with law around the Garden City for decades. And Paul is excited to announce the expansion of his firm to Ryan, Holloway & Miller. Paul Ryan, Nate Holloway, and Angie Miller have a fierce love for their community and want to help you with any of your legal needs. From auto accidents to medical malpractice to wrongful death or any criminal defense, Ryan, Holloway, and Miller should be your first call. Paul has established a reputation as the top legal mind in Missoula, claiming the Garden City's best attorney honors 13 different years. Ryan, Holloway & Miller is a local firm with experience and intimate knowledge to help clients with any needs. Ryan, Holloway & Miller will be available to take your calls at any time, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So no matter what your legal needs in western Montana and around the Treasure State, when it comes to personal injury or criminal defense, call Ryan, Holloway & Miller today. Ryan, Holloway & Miller, your Montana attorneys.
Ready to step up your hair game, but just not quite sure where to go? Well, look no further than Compass Barbershop, a modern barbershop for everyone, where they can help you find a style that's right for you. They offer precision scissor cuts and fades in a unique and inclusive atmosphere. Compass Barbershop has it all, including convenient online booking at compassbarber.com, or you can just stop by any day of the week. You can also check out Compass Barbershop on Facebook or Instagram. Find your way to Compass Barbershop, downtown on the Hip Strip, at the corner of modern and retro.
Automated Living can help you get peace of mind that your property is secure. We use tools like cameras, monitored security systems, door locks, and personal notifications to connect you with your property like never before. Get a notification that someone has just unlocked the garage door, but you can see just who it is and can react by shutting off the alarm or turning on the lights for them. Or maybe it's someone you don't want in there, and the system will notify you and the authorities immediately. Peace of mind is just another way we can make your life easier at Automated Living.
Open your new Stockman Bank account anytime, anywhere with online account opening. Now, you can open an account in minutes on your laptop, tablet, or mobile phone. It's convenient, simple, and secure. Open your new account today at stockmanbank.com. Then, add our online and mobile banking services so you can manage your money when, where, and how you want. Stockman Bank, Montana's brand of banking. Member FDIC.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana, KKVU HD3 Stevensville, and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula.
Game in week number 1, Monday Night Football.
From Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, first time there are fans in that brand new stadium, which isn't brand new anymore. They played there last year, but no fans were there. Ravens and the Raiders. Baltimore seeking its